Hey everybody, it's Simaan, owner and broker of the Simaan Group right here in beautiful Orlando, Florida. And today we have a special treat for you. We're going to talk about what to look for in a home inspection. And who else but the famous Ray Baley. He's the best inspector in all of Orlando. I've used him for over 7 years, and he does always a great job for all my clients' homes. So without further ado, Ray, our first interviewed guest in the show.
How you doing, Simon?
How's it going?
It's going good.
So today we're going to talk about the exterior of the home, the interior of the home, what to look for, and we got Ray Baley to help us with this. So let's start with the exterior. What do you typically look for on the exterior of a home?
Well, exterior of home, it depends first of all on the type of home that it is. You've got wood frame homes, which sometimes have got stucco over the wood frame, or they could have actually wood siding. They could have a cement fiber type siding. Different types of sidings on different types of homes. Now, a block home is usually going to have stucco or stone, sometimes brick over it. Frame homes can also have brick over the frame. The first thing that you're going to be looking for is probably cracks, any deterioration, anything that would be out of place, anything that looks like it's shifting. There's a whole bunch of different things to look for on the exteriors of homes. With wood frame homes, the thing that we're most concerned about is going to be any type of a water intrusion issue. We're looking for any deterioration of the siding. We're looking for deterioration of the trim. We're looking for any flashing issues related to the roof or any surrounding areas. We can actually find some of the exterior items for the exterior of the home and the interiors of attics. Like say if there's a front overhang on a house, we could go up into the attic and sometimes we will actually find staining or deterioration to the wood sheathing at the interior of the front overhang, which would indicate that there's a leak or a flashing issue or there's cracks in the stucco. With block construction, we're more concerned about say cracks, any shifting, any settling, anything that looks like it would be out of place or anything that would look like we could get water intrusion, holes, openings. Openings a lot of times on block and frame homes usually will be around old electrical, around say where your AC lines go in or out of the home. There's a lot of different areas where you could have holes, openings. The thing we want to stay away from is water intrusion. Water intrusion is the most damaging thing to any home, and sometimes you'll have unusual circumstances like say a hurricane would come through. You would be amazed the amount of water that can be pushed through a 1/16 inch crack in a house to the interior of a home. That's even more unsettling if you've got wood frame, because the water goes through to the insulation in the wall, stays wet, and that can actually create a mold or water intrusion issue that could be more severe, which would require remediation.
And how about like the roof? Like what kind of roofs do you usually come across?
Oh, roofs, and here in Florida we've got a lot of tile roofs. And when I say tile could be one of two materials. Could be, well actually there's slate, which would actually be a stone. You could have clay and you can have concrete. Concrete is usually the most common roof if you've got that type of like a natural stone or a hard surface roof. With the regular roofs, we can also have a metal roof. We can have a shingle roof. Now these roofs all last different periods of time.
Yeah, give us an example.
Well, a metal roof can last, believe it or not, some metal roofs have lasted up to 100 years. Now, I don't recommend that you have a 100-year-old metal roof because they usually look horrible when they're showing signs of deterioration. But
it'll outlast you.
It'll outlast you. A metal roof could last up to approximately 50 years in reality. Okay. If you have a tile roof, tile roofs can last 30 to 40 years if they're maintained and they're taken care of properly. But repairs on tile roofs are a little more expensive than they are on, like, say, a shingle roof. Shingle roof is the easiest roof, most common roof you come across here in Florida. Shingle roofs last approximately up to 15 years. Okay. Now, there's two different types of shingle roofs. You've got you actually have a 3-tab shingle roof, which does not last quite as long as what's called an architectural shingle. An architectural shingle has got 2 layers. One layer overlaps the other layer, and that will actually last a lot longer, an architectural roof. So you could get 15, you could actually get more years out of that roof. But what's happening with insurance companies these days, insurance companies do not like to lend money on homes that have got roofs over 15 years old if it's a shingle roof. Now, tile roofs, I couldn't tell you exactly where their breaking point is for where they would want the roof replaced, but shingle roofs, usually about 15 years.
Well, let's go back to the insurance thing you mentioned. Here's a secret that a lot of people don't know about. How can you save on your homeowner's insurance every year?
Well, there's something actually called a wind mitigation. Wind mitigation is where the inspector, or there are other people who can actually do it, but what we do is we actually document your roof to deck nail pattern, the type of hurricane straps that you've got. We look at the type of roof covering, of course, which would be either usually tile, you've got metal, or you've got shingle roofs. These all come into play, and then the roof configuration. Hip roofs, which is a roof that has got an angle on all sides of the roof, actually get the largest discounts, which is good. It actually helps, and it can save people sometimes. I couldn't tell you, but I've had people save almost like $600 to $800 a year, depending on the size of the home.
So the Egyptians and you back in the day for the pyramids to have all the corners.
There you go.
They were saving money on their insurance as well.
They're more wind resistant, is what it is. So those pyramids are more wind resistant. The wind just glides over them instead of hitting a flat surface. If you've got what's called a gable end roof, which is a flat wall with 2 pitches on either side, that's a gable end. Then there's gambrel roofs and there's other type of roofs, but the most common types that we find here are going to be either a hip or a gable end roof.
All right, perfect. Well, see, we're saving you money already on this channel, and that'll save you a bunch. I mean, depending on your insurance, I've seen wind mitigation reports bring down my client's insurance by $1,000, $2,000, depending on the size of the home. So with that said, let's go take a look inside, and we're going to talk about what to look for inside the home with your inspector. But please order a wind mitt and save some money. Let's go inside, come on. All right, we're coming to you from the kitchen. Now Ray, what do you typically look for in the kitchen?
The biggest issues in the kitchen are going to be, first of all, what type of piping is actually supplying the water lines for the home. That's very important. There are different types of water lines. You've got your copper water lines. You've got what's called PEX pipe. You've got polybutylene, which is probably one of the worst types of piping that there are. This is actually a sample of that type of piping. It is light gray in color. It's usually, it will have crimp fittings at either end. There are 2 types of crimp fittings. There are actually steel fittings, which are usually black, and there are also copper fittings. The copper fittings are more desirable. However, there is no good polybutylene. Don't let anybody tell you that there's any type of good polybutylene. There is also what's called CPVC pipe. CPVC pipe is a light yellow in color. It's just like white PVC, but it's got a yellowish tint. And the C stands basically for, it's a water line where you can put potable water. In the kitchen, the things that we're actually looking for is, first of all, the appliances. We want to make sure all the appliances work. Whether it's the electric or a gas range oven, some of them are a combination. The microwave oven, we want to make sure the microwave is working if it's a built-in microwave. Your kitchen refrigerator, we want to make sure the ice maker is hooked up, the ice maker is working, the ice distribution, if that's working. The sink, we want to check the sink. We check the faucet for any leaks. We make sure that the faucet is actually properly attached. We make sure that the kitchen spray wand is actually operating, that all things are operable. A lot of kitchens have got other bells and whistles. You can have steamers in kitchens. You can have warming drawers. There's range pot fills. There's a whole array of different types of appliances. You could have wine refrigerators. You could have pull-out drawers for refrigeration. We have to make sure that that is all operable and it's all working. Ice makers, the list just goes on. We've got water filters, but we have to make sure that there are, first of all, are no leaks. We check the cabinets, make sure all the cabinet drawers open and close properly, that nothing is binding up. We usually check underneath the kitchen sink, make sure that there's been no water intrusion. If there's been water intrusion, a lot of times there can be mold, there can be actually damage underneath the kitchen sink. That damage sometimes will indicate that there could be additional problems. I have had some homes where it looks like we have almost no damage underneath the sink, but then when you start looking farther on other sides of the sink or in other cabinets, there could be mold issues in some of those other cabinets.
How do you check the moisture? What do you do?
There's what we call a moisture meter. I've got a moisture meter, and then I've got a small floor camera that I use. The floor camera can actually, the only thing that the floor camera does is it can actually, between hot and cold, can tell you if there is a potential leak in that area.
Okay. So it gives you Superman eyes.
In a sense, but it's a little more technical than that. The floor camera is a good tool, but it is not the end all to tell you that there's a problem with anything.
The tip of the iceberg.
It is the tip of the iceberg, and it's just another tool to use. The other thing that is more important is actually the moisture meter. The moisture meter can actually indicate if there is any water intrusion or residual water in the walls. And the one that I have got works by radio frequency. You can put it on a surface and it will tell you if there's any moisture below the surface with that.
I mean, this is great information. And one thing I'll say about polybutylene piping is in the seller's disclosure, there's a specific question in there that does this house have polybutylene piping? So take a look at that, and it's really easy to tell. You can check underneath the sink, or you can go to the garage and look at the water heater, and you can find this pipe. Because a lot of insurance companies will not insure a home if it has polybutylene piping. So let's check out the other room. All right, we're going to talk about the electrical panel. Ray, go for it.
Electrical panels on homes, there are all types of electrical panels. This house happens to have what's called a Challenger panel. This one's very clear. It says Challenger right on the panel. There are good panels and there are bad panels. Challenger, unfortunately, we just happen to be in a home that's got a Challenger panel. There is Challenger, Zinco, Sylvania, FPE, Bulldog, ITE Siemens. Now Siemens is fine, but ITE Siemens, there's some issues with them. The panels that are good are FPE, you've got Siemens, there's Cutler Hammer. There are just so many different types of panels, but the panels that I listed earlier are panels that we watch out for that are problematic panels. Some of these panels have actually lost their UL rating. Once they lose the UL rating, there are usually problems with them. Sometimes there's issues with the breakers. The breakers will say it's a 20 amp breaker, but it will actually take 30 amps of power to trip that breaker. Well, what happens in that case? The wiring in the wall can actually overheat and start a fire in the home. So that's why some of these undesirable panels, a lot of times the insurance companies are going to require you to have them replaced, okay? This one just happens to be a Challenger panel. When we look at the panels, we look at the type of panel it is. Now this is the sub panel here. There's also a main panel, a lot of times on the outside. And then sometimes there's a panel that is a main with a sub, which would have a main breaker, usually at the top of the panel, and then the sub panel below. So there's all different types of panels. This one is a sub panel, and what we do when we check these, we'll remove all the screws, we'll take the panel cover off, we'll look for any type of wiring defects on the interior, such as overheating or charred wires at the interior of the panel. We're looking for what's called a double tap, and I've even had triple taps. What is that? A double tap is two wires going to one breaker. They only allow one wire to go to each breaker. And then we're looking at the wire size to see if, like say for a 20 amp breaker or 20 amp breaker or fuse, make sure that the wiring is the proper size for that type of panel. The other thing we look for when we remove the cover on this is we are looking for what is called aluminum wiring. Aluminum wiring actually was used very specifically, usually in the early 70s and late 60s during the Vietnam War. The reason we used aluminum wiring is because there was a shortage of copper. With the shortage of copper, they went to aluminum. However, there are all kinds of issues with aluminum wiring. With aluminum wiring, if it is not stranded aluminum is usually okay, depending on how much or where it's used, but the solid aluminum wiring, there's all kinds of problems with aluminum wiring. You can have arcing, meaning that where the wiring is actually connected, it begins to corrode and it starts to arc in the wall. Once again, that's a issue for, say, a fire. The other thing that happens is the aluminum wiring has been known that if you nick the aluminum wiring, and it's solid aluminum wiring, you can actually bend that wire and it will usually break right where the little nick is, okay? So there's a couple different reasons why aluminum wiring is not desirable, but that's a short view on wiring. Your typical wiring in a home hopefully is going to be copper, but we look for the problem of aluminum wiring so we can identify it, so it can either be remediated or the wiring can be replaced. So as for panels, there's quite a few different things we look for in the panels, but the brand of the panel, the type of the panel, we have to make sure it's a safe panel first of all, and that there's no problems with the electrical in the panel once we open it.
All right, we're coming to you from the shower, but don't worry, we're going to keep our clothes on. Ray, let's go.
Okay, there's a lot of different things we look for in a shower. Now this is actually just a shower. Sometimes there's a tub in there. The issues that we're looking for in showers is, first of all, leaky shower heads, usually around the top where the shower head connects. Sometimes it's got a flex hose. The flex hose sometimes can be leaking badly, spraying water in all directions. I've walked into showers, turned on the shower, and there's as much of a shower coming out of the connection as there is actually coming out of the head. The other things, a lot of times these heads, they will get clogged and they don't work properly, particularly if we have a rainfall or a rain shower type head in the shower, which would actually be one coming from the ceiling. The other things we're looking for is that the shower water control valve, first of all, that it properly operates. Sometimes you should actually be able to turn on the water, have it cold to the right, and as you go counterclockwise, this is a typical shower, it will actually gradually warm. Sometimes you'll get to the middle, the water flow will stop. That's improper. That means the cartridge has been installed improperly, or that there's some other type of a problem with the cartridge, okay? Sometimes the cartridges will start to leak, so you will actually get drips coming from the bottom of the actual spray head, or not the spray head, but the shower water control valve on the bottom. So you want to make sure that there's no leaks, there's no areas for penetration around the outsides of the covers. The other thing we're looking for is we're looking for cracks and openings in the grout. We're looking for moisture in the walls. I've got my moisture meter. I probably should have brought my meter with me just to show you what it's like. But you can actually check on the wall then and run that along the wall in different locations and check for any water intrusion. Water, once again, water intrusion in a home is probably one of the most damaging things you could have in a house. It causes mold. There are more, like say, plumbing leaks and things like that. Anything where you've got water coming in from the outside, water coming in from the inside through voids, openings in the grout. We have to make sure that everything's sealed up nice and tight, that your grout lines are nice and tight, and that you have no voids and openings and no moisture behind the wall. So that's pretty much what we're looking for in the baths, the showers, and the tubs.
Yeah, it's a big ticket item. If you have to retile a bathroom, we're talking about $5,000-$10,000. So that's a big ticket thing.
Especially a shower like this. This is a big shower.
Yeah. So without taking a shower, let's go to the next room. Fun fact, do you know that Carrier actually invented the AC unit in 1902? And that's a Carrier unit inside. We're going to talk about the AC unit and what that beautiful machine can do for us, especially in the hot Florida summer days, right?
things? Well, there's different types of AC units here in Florida. We've got this unit here, just happens to be a gas-fueled furnace, okay? Believe it or not, in Florida, we are not required to have AC, but we are required to have heat. Don't ask me why. It's a little backwards as far as I'm concerned, but we don't, we have got to have heat no matter what. The issues that we're looking for with the AC unit, first of all, is what is the age of the AC? We're looking to see if the unit is over 15 years old. Your average unit will last approximately 15 years. That is your approximate life expectancy of a unit. Now, we've had units go bad in 6 years. We've had units that have been running for 30 years. Now, 30-year-old unit's not going to be very energy efficient, but at the same time, it's still working. We have to do what's called a temperature split or a delta T. The temperature split, what we do is we measure the air coming into the unit on the bottom where the air handler filter usually is, and then the air temperature coming out at the top of the plenum. You are supposed to have between a 14 and 22 degree temperature split between the two. Sometimes it may be a little colder, sometimes it may be warmer. Warmer is really bad. Cold can actually, cooler than the 22 degrees, meaning like say if we're getting up into 23, 24, 25 degrees. I've had some temperature splits where it's over 5 degrees cooler. That indicates a problem with the unit. It's blowing really cold air, but it indicates that there is a blockage or something going on with the unit that indicates there's a problem. It could be with the plenum, it could be with the filter, it could be a lot of times with even the openings or the, say your vents, your outlets. Something could be crushed up in the attic. You could have a crushed plenum in the attic. You could have a blocked plenum someplace. So all these things come into place. The other thing is, believe it or not, the filter. Your filter, which is one of the simplest things to repair, that filter gets dirty. It blocks the airflow, drops the temperature in the air handler, and makes it cooler. Well, what happens when it gets cooler? Your AC unit turns into a block of ice. I've opened up many ACs where the AC unit, when you open it up, it is frozen solid. Your A coil is just covered. It looks like you have a big block of ice inside your AC air handler. The other things that can go wrong is it'll tell you if you've got enough, say, coolant in your AC, meaning Puron or Freon, depending on what type of an AC unit you've actually got. These units, they're all different. We're looking for the age of the unit. Usually 15 years is a good time to think about replacing your AC. Newer ACs are going to be more efficient and they're going to be much more just all around probably a better unit. The other thing that I look for in ACs is I remove the cover. Now this unit does not really have an inspection cover. This is just a cover on the front. Then you've got a burner chamber here. You really have a sealed up unit that you can't get into very easily for the AC. But we open it up, we look for mold and mildew issues. A lot of times I'll open these up. This one's clean in the inside here, but I've had units where I open them up and it looks like it's growing. Just mold covered everywhere. The back of the panel, the insulation's coming off. There's a lot of different issues that can go wrong with the ACs. Then we check them for heat output also. The other thing is there's what's called a little safety valve. This is a safety valve on the top here, which has got a little plunger at the top. The little plunger, if this unit is to, like, say, the AC condensation line, this is the condensation line here, if that clogs up, that little safety valve is supposed to shut off the unit so it does not run. So if you have a unit that's running periodically and then shuts itself down, there's a good chance your condensation line is clogged and it needs to be either vacuumed out or blown out so that you don't have any blockage in the condensation line. The last thing you want to have happen is this backs up and all of a sudden all the water starts coming to the interior of the home because your safety valve did not work. So once again, there's a lot of things to look for on the AC. That's it.
All right, on to the next one. All right, we're coming to you from the exterior, and we're going to discuss the water heater, right?
There's two types of water heaters. Actually, there's several different types of water heaters, but this is what's called an on-demand water heater. This is a gas unit. There are also electric on-demand water heaters. The things that we're looking for with water heaters is, once again, age. This is a little bit different from most common water heaters. Most common water heaters are going to be a tank water heater, which is a round tank, which I'm sure everybody's usually familiar with. And then there is what's called a temperature pressure release valve on each of the units. Now, the temperature pressure release valve is over here on this unit. The temperature pressure release valve on a tank unit is usually on the top, or it's on the front, or maybe the side. You want to make sure that the temperature pressure release valve goes to a safe location, meaning usually 4 to 6 inches off of the ground. Now, on water heaters, once again, water heaters and insurance companies do not like to insure homes that have got water heaters over 15 years old. Well, why is that? Water heaters over 15 years old tend to get old, they start to leak. So things that we're looking for with water heaters is going to be the age. We're looking, if it's a tank unit, we're going to be looking to see if there's what's called a catch pan underneath in case the tank leaks. Usually if the tank is on a second story, that's going to be very important. Also, if it's in the interior of a home, it's going to be very important also. You don't want that tank, if it leaks, to leak to the interior of the home. Usually then that will go to a drain pan that the water heater sits on and drain to the exterior of the home. So there's different things that we look for with different units. Once again, gas water heaters and electric water heaters, they all have different little things that go wrong with them. So there's going to be quite a few different things that we're going to be looking for in the water heater, which would be a little hard to go into in detail right now.
All right, we're going to bring it home and take it inside. Let's go. All right, guys, we're taking it home with Ray Baley. So, Ray, in summary, what are the 5 things you recommend people to look for in a home inspection?
Well, you've got your HVAC, or your heating and cooling system. You've got your roof, your plumbing, your electrical, and then the exterior of the home. You just want to make sure that those items are all taken care of, that they're all intact, that you don't have any problems with them, and those are the biggest things you really need to look for with a home. There are exceptions, but that's a good start.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'm going to put Ray's information in the info below. So if you want the best home inspection, contact this guy. I guarantee you're going to have a great experience. Every home has a story. Let us tell yours. And guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.